Hello students, welcome to today's class, and in today's class we'll continue with the poem I Cannot Live With You by Emily Dickinson. So in previous lecture we had seen the style of the poem, and today we are going to do the analysis, that is forms and devices used by Emily Dickinson in her poem. Right? So moving on, we see that I Cannot Live With You, that the title is not Emily Dickinson's, since she did not title her poems. So it was the title which was given posthumously when her poems were published. It is a poem of 50 lines divided into 11 4-line stanza and a concluding 12th stanza of 6 lines. The poem is an unusually long poem of Dickinson. We had already discussed this. It is written in the first person from the point of view of a speaker addressing a lover. So structurally, the poem is a list of things the speaker and the lover cannot do together and the reasons why they cannot. So in the first stanza, we see that the speaker announces to her beloved that she cannot live with the person because of the nature of life itself. So life as it is ordinarily conceived of by those who deal with it daily on its most basic levels, the housewives and the sexton, who locks up and unlocks, keeps the key to, as in the poem we have seen, that keeps the key to both earthly possessions and the graveyard, which is something like subject to decay. It can crack and it can be discarded. Now, the speaker goes on to assert in the 4th and 5th stanza that neither could she die with her beloved, because one of them would have to remain alive in order to close the other's eye. So here we just see the reference of the poem. For one must wait to shut others' gaze down. So the speaker asserts that further that logically it would be impossible for her both to see the beloved die. That means freeze. So here dying is compared to freezing, or like it is like conveyed through the word freeze, and to be dead at the same time to have her right of frost. Now in the 6th stanza and 7th stanza, the speaker explains why she could not rise or be resurrected with her beloved. Her reason is that resurrection to the new grace of Jesus requires placing Jesus at the center of one's life, acknowledging him to be metaphorically the brightest sun. So the speaker's homesick eye, however, is focused on her beloved, because your face would put out Jesus. So the beloved not only is more central than Jesus to the speaker's life, but also entirely blots out the face of Jesus. That means she can see nothing beyond the face of the beloved. She sees only her lover everywhere. Now in the 8th stanza and 9th stanza, then predict the inevitable judgment that would be brought about by the speaker's blasphemy. So here we see that the speaker's only defense, however, is retiration of her blasphemy. Her beloved saturated that sight so completely that she could no longer see uh, what is happening there in the world. So the lines which convey this is, had no more eyes for more shadowy, sordid types of excellence, such as God's paradise. So she explains this through these lines in the poem that we have already seen. Now in the 10th and the 11th stanza, the speaker cites further difficulties that could arise should the two lovers be resurrected and judged together. But there is no chance of them being resurrected and judged together. Now, one of them could be damned and the other saved. Regardless, the speaker insists of her own self would be a hell to her if she were separated from her lover. So it is this reason that lead to the conclusion of the final and the longest stanza. So we must meet apart, she says. Since the two lovers cannot be together, they can only be with each other by being apart and sustaining themselves with the only things they share, that is distance and the despair. And now looking at the forms and devices, we see that one of the most important devices used in the poem is metaphor. Obviously, it is a figure of speech in which one thing is seen in terms of something else. Now, specifically, that of renunciation of love as a way of both denouncing and renouncing the tradition paradigm of human life set forth by Christianity. That is what we see here. And if we read the poem closely, then the poem is structured according to the stages of human life as defined by this traditional Christian paradigm: life, death, resurrection, judgment, damnation, salvation, and eternity. So rather than overtly criticize the adequacy of this model of human life, however, the speaker considers the value and sustenance afforded by this paradigm through an examination of its implication for a love relationship. So, when we see within this larger metaphorical structure, the poem incorporates a parallel metaphor of sensory experiences that underscores the speaker's rejection of both traditional definition of life and conventional modes of experiencing and perceiving life. The speaker invokes image of eating, seeing, hearing, physical touch. So everything is present in sensory experiences, which she has tried to explain through her words. Furthermore, we see that throughout all the poems, the use of commas is non-existent. We don't find commas, but it is replaced by dashes. It is said that Dickinson may have used dashes to show the reader's stress to certain words and phrases. So, in this poem, the dashes could represent her distance between herself, her, and her lover or the loved one. So, one example of dashes representing their distance would be in the last stanza when she said, "You there, I here." So, there is dash, you there, dash, I dash here. So, with dashes, it has placed an emphasis on the reason why they are unable to live with each other. So, in Emily Dickinson's poem, her experience cannot or her experiences comes to the life with the use of imagery. So the object she uses, which were the cup of the shelf, Jesus, sexton, and the door, all express her thoughts and feeling from a broken heart to a partly open door with some kind of hope. So if she talks about the door ajar, then there is some hope left that they'll meet through some source. That source is going to unite them finally in some way. So all in all, Dickinson shows in this poem that she has no choice but to be feeling lonely and disconnected or discontented without her loved one in her life. Taken as whole, when reading Dickinson's poem, I Cannot Live With You, it left a feeling of isolation, a sense of loneliness and separation. And from a separation from her loved ones, there were various ideas conveyed in the poem alone: life, death, religion, to become alive again, and despair. So these are the ideas which she has presented through her poems. So we have seen that in her poem, it's like the cycle of death and life after death, conveying the idea that she is left with fear because there is no hope or way for them to be in the world together. So this is the analysis and the devices in the form that she used in the poem. Thank you all.